Hello folks, Crazy Camper here once again to do the review on Season 2, Episode 6 of Alone. I am by no means a survival expert. I just love to keep the reviews coming on this YouTube channel and keep the comments coming as well. First of all, subscribe right here if you have not yet. More reviews to come. And up here for my other channel, Ontario Parks, where I go camping and I explore all the different parks the wonderful province of Ontario, Canada has to offer. I'm 2 camping trips behind on that channel, but I'll catch it up soon. So, let's start off by talking about our comments from last weekend. I proposed a question, are these the best survival experts? Because John Lord started that topic off. And James M. was on the Facebook fan page for History Alone, and he said the host told him that there were 3,500 applicants that signed up for the show, and if you watched episode 0, you know that they had 20 out and they cut it down to 10. And then the German survivalist guy on YouTube said that he's kind of implying that we're all crazy, think they're not the best. Just look at their bios. They're excellent teachers. They've been practicing it for a number of years, so he thinks they are the best. But then JoshFugate said, I don't think the show is intended to have the world's best elitist survival experts on there. He feels the intent of the show is to demonstrate the power and the will of the human psyche. Interesting thought. And then JJ Perks said, well, first, I think they picked the right people who take everything into consideration, so they're well-rounded, they can videotape, and they know how to survive. And when I think about it, good teachers would be great on the video because they're teaching it to clients, so why not teach it to a video camera, which might even be easier than clients, well, it would be. And then other information that we learned from our comments before, Island Boy said Nicole's on a homestead that operated from 1918 to 1936. So Allan Boy commented that the bears and Nicole are enjoying indigenous plant life and non-indigenous plant life that was planted there in a garden. So she has a pretty big one-up on everyone else from that spot. Also, there's 2 coves that apparently have the salmon running in. Island Boy also looked at the weather history because that storm hit last year, and I was curious on when they actually started. So he nailed that down to saying they started on September 26th based on when that storm hit, because he looked at weather underground, and so we saw what day that storm hit. And he also noted that the weather is also a lot nicer, so they started about 3.5 weeks earlier, and there's an El Nino event, which I know is warming of water in the Pacific Ocean, and so that throws off weather patterns around the whole world, and it gives BC a mild winter, and it's obviously started in the fall before. I'll put the link to Weather Underground right below, so you can check that out. I don't look at it actually for the next storm. I didn't see anything in the next time on Alone to indicate another storm's coming, so I haven't checked it out yet. But let's move on to the rankings. Number 7, David. Number 6, Justin. Number 5, Larry. Number 4, Randy. Number 3, Nicole. Number 2, Mike. And in number 1, Jose Martinez. As always, let's look to see why I ranked them where I did. Number 7, David. Well, we didn't even see him once this episode, but on Next Time Alone we see him complaining more and more about food, and he's been thinking a lot about food. Hasn't built a really crazy shelter to survive the high winds and rain, but he got through that first storm just fine. So it's interesting to see what he's going to do, but he's just thinking about food way too much, and I think he might just tap out because he's not catching enough food. Moving on to number 6, Justin. We know he built that gym. He had a good shelter. He got through that weather fine. And he caught a fish the previous episode, but we didn't see him again this episode. And I'm pretty sure on Next Time Alone, we see his sleeping bag all wet, and he's pretty ticked off about that. Unless that was Larry, but it looked like Justin in the camera in the dark. Moving on, I'll put Larry number 5. So we started off seeing him on day 15. He catches a late evening fish, and he almost loses that fish. He said, I have a death grip on it, and then it squirms out and falls in the rock, and then that's when the swearing started. It was just beep, 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 and he goes up to a shelter to cook the fish at about 2 a.m., and then his fire striker wasn't working on moist fire tinder, and I thought his fire striker actually broke, because it was just beep, 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 non-stop, and then one of the last scenes that night, he bumps his head on top of the shelter, and I know it was really frustrating out there, especially in that spot. But I actually found it a little funny, just the way you're just going off. But he later explains that yes, he gets the frustration up, but he always comes back to problem solve. You know what? He's the only one, as we see on day 17, to move to a third spot. It's day 17. I've never seen anyone in the show that late decide to pick up and move to a new spot, because a mouse was destroying his clothing and the sleeping bag could have been next. And he said if that mouse does that, he's going to blow the whole place up. So he finally moved on. It looks like his new location is pretty nice. It's open. He has lots of coastline. And right away he went to work to build that shelter, but he wasn't getting the logs the right, and he cut two that were just a little few inches too short, so that brought on more swearing. But we'll see if he can catch lots of fish there. Now the thing about that is he's pretty far behind now in weight and calories, so that's a lot of energy to move the camp. He even said that his belts, he has to tie it up tighter, or the strap on the pack. And so see if his new spot pays off, but looks like he's just going to keep going until he can't. So I love that mentality. I hope he can. I hope he gets some fish. Moving on to number 4, Randy showed off making some crazy faces. So it looked like he was enjoying himself out there. He talked to his sister through the faces. He caught some ratfish, 2 more fish. He said he's been eating fish for 3 days now. So he has a good method of winding the fishing rod or fishing string line up on a pole, and he can cast it out. And he started self-improving his surroundings. So he built a mattress, and that can go a long way. The task keeps you busy. He's more comfortable now. But then towards the end of day 15, some intense emotions started kicking in, saying sometimes every fiber in his body just wants him to go home. Day 18, he actually contemplates on going home, and I always actually thought maybe he might tap. So that was starting to worry a bit. He said he was hoping the decision would be easier. But the fact he says that means he's not ready to go home, and he might not go home anytime soon. Because usually when they're going home, they're pretty decisive, and they just hit that button and go. If there's any doubt, they're going to stick it out, typically what we've seen from Season 1. And coming on to Season 2 now, they're acting similar. And then the next episode, we see him swimming. We just see him slowly going under the water. So I'm wondering, did he tap? And he's like, yep, I'm done. And just complete relief, just walks to the ocean and takes a dip. That'd be a cool way to go. But I just don't see him going yet, especially when he's getting the food. But he kind of reminds me, he also worked in that big shelter. But he kind of reminds me of Lucas from Season 1. Just his tone of voice and his reasoning on why he's there. Should he be there? Should he go home? It's really starting to remind me of him. And remember Lucas, he built that awesome shelter. A yurt. He built a yurt with the posts and then his canvas over top. He built a canoe, built a musical instrument. So he was MacGyvering a whole lot of stuff, and he still went home. But I wasn't sure how well he was eating. He looked pretty thin. But Randy still looks like he has some meat on his bones. So hopefully he can keep going. But moving on to number 3, we have Nicole, who is taking use of that apparent homestead. I want to look some information up on that and see. I assume the guy's right. I don't know why he'd make it up. And it's so open, it looks like Nicole does have a spot like that. But we see her on day 17, and she is nailing another big salmon. And these salmon are huge. So she's eating very well out there. She could catch one of them a day for a little while until a salmon run runs out. She's going to have a lot, but could she preserve some, smoke it, maybe keep it for later? She said she can preserve it for a few days, the one episode, but I don't know how much longer she could. But I'm surprised that the Bears have not got her net yet. I thought for sure they'd be going for a net. They would destroy the net, take the salmon, and then that would be the other net, and then that could be the end of her. She has so much body fat on her. And another poster commented that the MS, yes, it can come back under a lot of stress, so she could have relapse of that, and apparently she's never out of the woods for that for the rest of her life. So that could happen, but hopefully she keeps trucking on. Her shelter looks great. She has a little fire out in front of it that is covered, kind of like a porch. And she had her first breakdown. She's always been bubbly, happy, but she had her first breakdown that tells us that, okay, emotionally, it finally is wearing on her, that she is alone. And, she has her past that was very emotionally destructive when her stepson passed away and drowned. So that's kind of sad there, but I hope she gets it together and keeps on trucking, because I want to see a whole lot more of her. And moving on to number 2, Mike. We didn't see how he fared in the storm the last episode, but we see him on day 15 now after the storm. He looks fit and healthy. He's scavenging for beach items that wash ashore, so maybe that southern exposure, like our one poster said, that it could be a gold mine for stuff. And he finds that big plastic tub where he goes out and he acts like a pirate, and I absolutely love that. We haven't seen that in his character yet. So far, nothing has stopped him. He's only complained about missing his wife, and he just keeps on trucking. So I think he should be around a little while, and I hope he is. And moving on to number 1, Jose. He's kind of starting to be a wild card. We don't see how much he is eating, but he's collective, calm, cool, and he thinks there's channels out in front of him where the salmon are swimming in, so he wants to take advantage of it. So he's been going for long hikes. He collected some lumber. He's making the gun rails around for a canoe. He's starting the supports, but looks like part of it breaks. So he goes and takes a breather calmly, sits on a log, and just looks at the forest. So I'm sure he's going to go back to do it, and I'm sure he's going to build the canoe, because on the intro we see him falling over in all the commercials. You just see his scared face, and he has a lot of facial hair too. So that could be, who knows, day 30 into day 40. I think these guys are going to stick around a lot longer than the first season. Number 1, they started later. 2, I think they're stronger contestants. And 3, the weather is a lot nicer with El Nino. So we'll see how long they stick around for. What do you guys think? How long are they going to last? I'm going to throw out a round number. I'm going to say 80 days. I'm not going to bother making a competition of it, but 80 days. And as for our competition, no one got eliminated, so the rankings will stay the same. If anyone wants to join, go for it. Please subscribe, comment. Let's keep the discussion going. I can't wait till next Thursday. Aside from that, I'll say goodbye now, and have a good day.